don't need to prove yourself to anyone. And if you're watching this, it's likely you're exhausted, tired of trying to prove yourself to everybody, to meet their expectations, to meet their standard of who you think or they think you should be. So if you're here, welcome back. Welcome to my YouTube channel. For the returning subscribers, thank you for always supporting me. I love you guys, and I know that I haven't been on. I've been busy. School, life, a lot of things have happened to me in the past month. And if you're new here, welcome to the family. My name is Mercy, but people call me Dora. So I wouldn't mind you calling me Dora. So from the title that I just gave for the video, letting go of the need to prove yourself to people. So there are instances where you're trying to live up to people's expectations, to fit the idea they have of you in their minds, and you're trying to conform to that persona, but it mostly fails. And when you fail to conform to that persona, they make you feel like something is genuinely wrong with you, like it's your fault for not meeting their imaginary standards. These people that have these imaginary standards of you, who have the questions always echoing in their minds, like, why is this person changing? Why isn't this person the person I imagine them to be? Like, they want what they think about you to be the truth about you. But here's the actual truth. You don't owe anyone an explanation for being yourself. So I want to share a personal story. It has to do with me, a story of me growing up and having people define me, and how I navigated through that, and how I'm still navigating through it. So stay tuned. So growing up, I always used to have this situation where I'd have people define me. Like, they'd always tell me who I am, what I'm capable of. Like, I never had a say in who I actually was. It's that thing where when you're a kid, you're growing up and people like try to define you. You know that thing where already before you decide what you want to do, no, this child is going to be a pilot. Before you decide what you love, no, this child loves this. And before you weigh your own intelligence, everybody has weighed your intelligence for you. And they don't even know what you actually go through to be who you are or to meet up to their expectations. And the minute you stop being what they want you to be, it becomes sour, or it goes a certain way, or they won't like you anymore. And I feel like a lot of us have gone through that, and I think a lot of people relate to my story. So growing up, I was labeled disrespectful and rebellious, and these words made me feel insecure and uncertain about myself. I usually used to think, and I began to believe, that something was fundamentally wrong with me. The constant criticism, the humiliation, it gets to take a toll on your mental health, and it led to depression and suicidal thoughts. And at that time, the most damaging aspect of the experience wasn't just hurtful words from my family. It was how they spoke to me. It was the self-perception they had given me and the identity I had started to internalize. I started to get in all their negative labels. I started to walk with them like I owned them, like that's who I was. And I started to believe that I was unlovable, unworthy, and just a troublemaker, basically. So as I navigated the world, it's that thing where I just carried this shame, this distorted self-image of who I was. And I started to believe like I was too much to handle. Forgive me for not looking at the screen. This is not really easy for me to share. And it got to a point where I believed that nobody could truly love me or accept me for truly who I was, like just being. So this perception that I had of myself started to lead to self-sabotaging patterns, because I started to now align myself with what people thought of me. I started to act the same way that people expected me to live. I started living according to their standards, and because I was unaware of my true potential, the negative definitions of myself persisted for a long time. And being labeled a bad child and a troublemaker, I was made to feel like some people had to make this extra effort to love me. And this bothered me for a very long time. But one time I was just like, let's rewind. I took a step back and I just decided to ask myself, to ask myself some tough questions, like very personal questions, like, if I'm so bad, why am I the one consistently being on top of the ladder when it comes to my family? You know what I mean? If I'm this bad person, why am I the one who's always showing up and caring for others? Why am I the one that everybody wants to call when there's a problem, when there's a need for help, and when there's a need for someone to take, or for someone to get taken care of? Why am I the one that you call if I'm so bad? And then I just came to realize, I'm like, the narrative that I had been fed didn't match the reality of my life. And once I knew that the narrative these people are feeding me doesn't match the person that I actually am and the person that I'm actually living out to be, my eyes were opened. I was like, we need to shift. We need to reevaluate this whole thing in our heads. All these perceptions we were fed of who we are, of who we are meant to be. Maybe they were a lie. Maybe they were just we were just a mirror for other people to see what's deeply wrong with them and what they can't have. It hit me that these people were projecting their own flaws, their own traumas, their own insecurities in me. They were projecting that onto me. They were scared of seeing in me what they saw, but they did not want to see in themselves. And once I saw this was a turning point. So what did I do next? What I decided to do next is I decided to take a stand and ignore the negative comments that were being brought onto me. I started asserting myself, refusing to say, no, I'm not what you say I am. You tell me I'm stupid, I'll tell you point blank, like, I'm not stupid. Please stop it. Just stop it. And once it got to that point, like, it became difficult for people to just impose things on me. I started to confront criticism, the insults that were given to me. I would calmly respond, like, I would just calmly respond, not in a hectic way or start shouting at people, but I would, like, just respond properly. That's not who I am. Stop calling me those names and labeling me. And I took control of my own narrative. I was declaring who I was. You know, in the Bible, it says that your words become life and they become what you are. So what you say about yourself constantly is who you become. What you hear about yourself is who you become, and what you see. The eyes are the window to the soul. And if you constantly look into the eyes of people who think you're nothing, who think you're someone who's going to fail in life, it starts to weigh on you. You start believing like, that's who I am. And when you start asking yourself those questions, you're asking those questions to yourself in your head, out loud sometimes. And unfortunately, it becomes the truth at some point. So what did I do? I took a turn. I was like, no. The more these people say these things to me, I can't control what other people say to me. I can't control how they treat me, but I can control how I respond to them. And I would constantly say, no, that's not who I am. You can call yourself that. You can believe that that's who I am, but don't tell me that's who I am, because you don't know me, and I don't expect you to know me more than myself. And I just started believing this to the point where these days, when you want to just start a fight with me or you want to argue with me, I'll just watch you and I'm like, what's going on here? Because this is not my energy. I'm all peace and love here. And that's what I started to cultivate within my life. And you know, coming from a family that often avoids confrontation, I had to keep up my newfound assertiveness because it was a bother to many. Like, I figured if no one was going to stand up and speak up for me or for myself, I was going to have to do it for myself. And when I started to speak up for myself, I had to become my own advocate, refusing to believe that others can dictate my self-worth. And that's where it all began. I made a conscious decision to surround myself with people who actually saw my value. I found friends, partners, colleagues, and everybody that I could surround myself with that actually loved me for who I am and always encouraged and uplifted me. Not people who always made me feel negative, because already if I have that in a space where I come from, having that outside would be worse for me. So I decided to ground myself and find myself in loving and nurturing relationships with friends and other people outside. I've never been one to seek validation. I'm the type of person who never feels the need to fit in with the crowd. I can hang out alone and I'll be just fine. And that's just how I've always been. But I and the reason why I've always been like this is because I saw that being around others usually made me compromise my own self-worth. It made me people please, and I didn't like that at all. So I set boundaries, and I only gave the time of day, to relationships that understood my boundaries, people that lifted my spirit, people that encouraged the same messy, compassionate, loving, and humorous person that I was. And I thrived in their presence. I became the best of myself, you know what I mean? And I would always advise someone to always do that whenever they are trying to build this strong image of themselves, especially when it's been torn apart by the most people that you trusted. And so this was my chance to prove myself. It was a chance to prove that I am stronger than the doubts and fears that were given to me. I had to stay firm and to affirm my worth, and to continue to the path of self-discovery and growth. So as I continued to rise above all these negative labels, the same people who had made me feel a certain way started to craft lies about me. They tried to give me this identity that wasn't even mine, and I found myself constantly in situations where I was made to feel like I was always the bad guy. It was frustrating, especially since, I didn't engage in the same behaviors as my peers, and this left me feeling depressed and just low and sad in so many ways. But at this time it was kind of too late, because I had already built stamina and I was much stronger than I was before. So I started building myself up again. I had already gone past the suicidal thoughts. I was no longer that person who would feel like at any inconvenience I would feel like killing myself or something. I started to follow a new perspective where I say observe life without becoming entangled. Life unfold like a movie and then respond thoughtfully. And as I observed, I realized that whenever I tried to improve myself, others would try to bring me down. They'd attempt to make me feel bad about myself, but I stood firm, telling myself I'm moving forward no matter what. I'm worthy of love, respect, and happiness. I understood that my true identity comes from God, and I am who He says I am. I am not defined by the opinions of others, family, friends, colleagues, or anyone else. I know myself, my values, and my goals. I know who I am, and that's all that matters. So I'm taking back my control. I'm firing everyone who thought that they had been in employment in trying to figure out what my life is for me. They have the right to define me or shape my identity, but no, I am me, and I shape my own worth, my own identity. Ultimately, I've broken free from the shackles and others' expectations. I'm no longer the villain in anyone's story. I've stopped blaming myself for others' failures and mistakes. I've let go of the need to people please, realizing that I don't need anyone's validation to feel loved. I've discovered that I have enough love within myself to care for myself and to even cherish. I've given up trying to make everyone happy, and I've let go of the old me who would cry over hurtful words from family members. Now, I observe their behavior without internalizing their negativity. I listen, but I don't absorb their toxic words. This is the message I want to share with everyone. Don't internalize the negativity of others. When I started standing up for myself and saying this is not who I am, those who had labeled me as a bad person began to hate me even more. They tried to punish me by withholding things, throwing me out, and more. And I saw that through their tactics, I realized they were projecting their own flaws onto me to distract everyone else from figuring out who they really are. And I realized it's not my fault when you're just scared that the more I'm here and the more I show more of myself, the more people get to know who you truly are. And that's your biggest fear. So it has nothing to do with me. This is all about you. So this is my story. It's not an easy one to share. It's sad and painful, but it's also liberating. I've come to realize that some people I expected to support and love me have instead hurt and degraded me and made me to feel small and insignificant. But I've made a choice. I'm free and I won't be held captive by their opinions or expectations. I won't wait for their love, acceptance, or approval. I won't prove myself to anyone but myself, because I'm the only one who truly knows who I am. I've lived with myself since birth, and I've spent countless nights nights, days, and moments in my own company. I've worked in my own shoes. I've worn my own clothes and navigated my own journey. So I'm taking back that control for myself. My message to everyone is this: let go of the need to prove yourself to others. The moment you start seeking validation from external sources, you will lose your way. You will lose your self-esteem, your sense of purpose, discipline, ambition, and even your joy. These people will drain your energy, suck the life out of you, and extinguish your light. So, please, fire them from your life. You are the CEO of your. People will drain your energy. They will suck the life out of you and extinguish your light. So fire them from your life. You are the CEO of your own life, your own words, your thoughts, and your feelings. You are what matters the most. Surround yourself with people who uplift and encourage you, but don't rely on their validation. Learn to distinguish between genuine advice and manipulation. Remember, manipulation can sometimes masquerade as love. Ultimately, love yourself and prove yourself only to yourself. You are enough just as you are. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for being with me. If you've reached the end of the video, thank you so much. And I pray that everyone figures it out on their way to self-love and self-discovery. I pray everybody gets to a point where they can finally be themselves and they can finally relate to what happiness and true self-love means. Until next time, guys. Bye.